This here is a how-to video on how to change a water pump impeller for a 2005 Suzuki DF140. The first step is put a couple marks on your trim tab on both your lower unit and your trim pad, so you know what angle to reinstall this. Begin with taking out this bolt. This bolt is held onto the lower unit there, and then proceed to take off these 6 bolts to remove your lower unit. So I've gotten down all the way to the last 2 bolts and move the trim tab, and then underneath the trim tab is one more bolt right there. That'll be your last bolt. Before the lower unit is loose, make sure that you unhook your speedometer cable. That's this flexible cable here that runs there. There's a joint there. Just pull that apart. So I got all the bolts out, including the one that's under there and the other 6. And the lower unit still doesn't want to budge, but behind here there's a little slot. Put a screwdriver in that and pry gently, and I think that'll loosen the lower unit. Okay, the lower unit came out really easily once I pried behind there. Here it is. Here's your drive shaft. Here's your shift lever. And on mine, a little dry in there. Looks like I got some moisture on this here. I'll have to look that up and see if that's normal. So your water pump is under here. I'm gonna go ahead and remove these 4 bolts and take a look. Okay, I got 3 of the 4 water pump impeller housing bolts out, and just getting my last bolt out here.
Dad, I'm having trouble with it.
Okay, so let's see if this housing comes off. Pull the housing straight up off of your drive shaft. Here it comes.
Dad, you just bounce it in the water and
Looks pretty good in there. And here's your water pump. This water pump looks pretty good. Pull straight up. It's on a key in there. Still flexible. Here's the new water pump repair kit. Here's the old one. The old one's in pretty good shape. So this plate right here comes with your rebuild kit. So I'm just prying that up like so. And we'll get this all cleaned up. First we need to remove this plate, this lock. This is it's a key to hold it in place. Okay, so I got it out by just pushing a screwdriver down, because it's round and it sits in there like that. So just push from the top with a screwdriver and it'll pop out. Your kit will come with a new key. You can see my gasket is really dry, so I'm glad I'm doing this job. Change out the gasket, put a new gasket on. So clean all this off so you have a good clean mating surface. So give your mating surface a good cleaning. Okay, I got it all cleaned out in there. My mating surface seems to be pretty good. I do have one spot right here that isn't quite, looks like maybe previously some corrosion was there. It's not quite flat, but I think the gasket will seal it good enough. I'm also going to put grease, just kind of a light coating of grease, the same way you would with an oil filter around this. took a little wipe of marine grade grease here. I'm going to put it on the engine side of the shift lever. Slide your shift lever back onto your lower unit. It only goes on one way. It's keyed. So I greased it up and then just put it into place. And then that way, when I slide the whole lower unit back in, the shift lever it'll go where it needs to go. So I'm going to apply some grease to the drive shaft all the way down, especially in this key, kind of in this area, and on the spline here, or the mating joint right here, and then just a light layer down here along this where the gasket's going to sit, and then over these bolt holes. You'll thank me later if you do that. So the Suzuki engineers, they designed this to the new plate to only go on one way. You'll see that this side is wider than the bottom, so put the wider side towards the front of your prop. First, after you grease this area, go ahead and apply your gasket. And got the gasket on backwards. You'll see how it fits. Fits over those two tabs there. Okay. Next, your housing plate. And that just fits beautifully on there. Okay. Now let's go get our new water pump impeller and key. New water pump impeller and the new key. Okay, so put the key in after you grease the slot there. There we go. Plenty of grease. Okay, your key will only go on one way, so there's the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and just, I got plenty of grease on this spline here. I'm going to go ahead and put the new water pump on with the key. And it's going to get plenty of grease on its way down here. Okay, water pump is in place. It's locked onto my drive shaft here. So I applied a little bit of grease underneath. I don't hold back on grease. I figure it protects everything from the corrosion in the marine environment. So now go ahead and just apply some grease to the tips of your impeller, and then we will grease. Just put we're okay. There's plenty of grease everywhere. Make sure this is good and clean. Okay, got the lower unit back on. It was a bit tricky. Not tricky, just make sure that you get the drive shaft lined up. I just had to have someone kind of be there in case, I needed them to hold it. I could have done it alone, but yeah, just sliding it in. Just make sure you line up the drive shaft just right. Hook all the bolts back up. I went ahead and topped off my trim fluid while I had that motor up, and that's it, folks.